The starship UES Horizon hung in space, a gleaming metal beacon against the darkness. Commander Hannah Park stood on the observation deck, watching alien ships approach. Her face stayed calm, but her stomach felt tight. "Commander, they're calling us again," said Lieutenant Kim from his control panel. Hannah took a deep breath. "Let's talk to them." The large screen in front of them came to life. An alien appeared, tall and thin with shiny scales covering its body. 4 eyes stared at them from its face. "Humans of Earth." The alien's words were changed by the computer into Korean. "The Galactic Coalition is happy to meet you." Hannah noticed something in the alien's manner. It was being polite, but seemed nervous. All through the first meetings, the aliens were stiff and formal. They acted like humans were dangerous animals that might attack at any moment. Later that day, Earth's team visited the main alien ship. Science Officer Jun-Lee walked by some screens showing alien research. He quickly used his small computer to copy information. The aliens had put humans in a group called Deathworlders, creatures from planets with harsh conditions. Suddenly, loud alarms rang through the alien ship. Everyone turned to look at the emergency signals. "One of our science ships is under attack," an alien officer reported. "It's the Vextar." Hannah saw fear spread across the alien command center when they heard that name. "We can help," Hannah said right away. The alien admiral seemed uncomfortable. "No need. We can handle this." But the screen showed the science ship's shields were almost gone. Hannah didn't ask again. "Horizon to all Earth ships," she said into her communicator. "Get ready to save that vessel." The aliens watched with wide eyes as human ships moved quickly toward the battle. Earth vessels turned and accelerated in ways the aliens thought weren't possible. They flew circles around the attackers, firing weapons with perfect aim. When it was time to board the damaged ship, human soldiers moved in. They ran through corridors, worked together without speaking, and fought with speed that amazed everyone watching. Jun was in the medical bay when the rescued alien scientists arrived. They looked at the humans with new expressions, part amazement, part deep fear. "You fought the Vextar and won," one scientist whispered. "No one does that." "How did your ships move that way?" another asked. "Our best pilots couldn't do those maneuvers." Hannah joined them. "We're just glad we could help." An older alien scientist approached her slowly. "You must understand. We've studied thousands of species. None respond to danger the way humans do. You don't freeze. You don't panic. You become more focused, more efficient." "It's just training," Hannah said. "No," the alien replied. "We monitored your body signals during the rescue. Your heart rates increased, but your hands stayed steady. Your stress hormones spiked, but your thinking became clearer. That's not training. That's evolution." Later that night, Hannah found Jun analyzing the information he'd copied. "You need to see this," he said, showing her his screen. "They've been studying us since we made first radio contact with their outpost last year." The screen showed human biological details compared to other species. Humans had unusual features: high pain tolerance, extreme temperature adaptation, efficient oxygen use, and something the aliens called threat response inversion. "What's that last one?" Hannah asked. "Most intelligent species become less effective when threatened," Jun explained. "Their thinking gets worse as danger increases. Humans are the opposite. We think better under pressure." Hannah remembered the battle. How clearly she'd seen everything, how time seemed to slow down, how obvious the right decisions had become. "There's more," Jun said. "The Vextar have attacked 16 coalition worlds in the past year. They don't just conquer, they destroy all resistance completely." "And we just embarrassed them," Hannah said quietly. The next morning, the Coalition Admiral requested a private meeting with Hannah. His 4 eyes blinked nervously as they sat down. "Commander Park, your actions yesterday were—" He paused, searching for words, "unexpected." "We saw allies in danger and responded," Hannah said simply. "Yes, But the way you responded, the Admiral continued. Most species would have requested permission, formed a committee, discussed options. People would have died during all that talking. The Admiral made a sound that the translator didn't catch. The Galactic Coalition has existed for 2,000 years. We have protocols, procedures. Do these procedures work against the Vex Star? Hannah asked. The Admiral's scales shifted color slightly. No, we've lost every direct engagement. Then perhaps it's time for new procedures, Hannah suggested. Perhaps, the Admiral agreed, his voice low. Our scientists believe humans evolved on a planet that forced you to become perfect predators. You developed intelligence not to avoid danger, but to become more efficient at confronting it. Hannah thought about Earth, its earthquakes, storms, diseases, and long history of warfare. The Admiral leaned forward. The Coalition needs your help. Commander Park, the Vex Star are coming, and for the first time in centuries, I believe we might survive. Because of humans. As Hannah left the meeting, she received a message from Earth Command. More ships were coming. The first human-alien alliance was forming, and somewhere out in the darkness, an enemy was learning that humans were not prey. Admiral Ta watched the video again. Human soldiers moved with incredible speed, rushing into danger to save strangers. They killed with frightening skill, but risked their lives to protect others. They are efficient killers, Admiral Ta said to the gathered council members, but they placed themselves at risk to protect others. Fascinating contradiction. The large meeting room filled with nervous talk. Alien representatives from 20 different worlds shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The humans had done things that seemed impossible. Their ships moved too fast, said one council member, a tall being with blue skin. The technology we saw doesn't explain it. Because it's not the technology, Admiral Tay replied. It's the humans themselves. He pressed a button, showing new pictures of the Vex Star forces moving closer to Coalition worlds. We need them, Admiral Ta continued. The Vex Star advance has gotten faster. Our usual fighting methods have failed completely. Counselor Meru, a small four-armed alien, shook his head. They're too unpredictable. Their biology makes no sense. They drink alcohol that poisons their systems, for fun. They lie in the sun to darken their skin, despite radiation damage. They run until they're covered in sweat. And yet, Ta said firmly, they organized a rescue mission in minutes that would have taken us hours just to approve on paper. The debate lasted 3 days. Finally, the Council voted to ask Earth for military help. Earth sent a small group of ships led by General Sunwoo Park, Commander Hannah's brother, and Earth's best military leader. He arrived with minimal ceremony, immediately asking to see coalition battle plans and enemy information. You want to start combat training tomorrow? Admiral Tai asked, surprised. Don't you need time to rest after your journey? General Sunwoo smiled slightly. We rested on the ship. Joint training exercises began the next day. Coalition soldiers watched in growing worry as humans showed abilities that seemed impossible. Human soldiers kept fighting after injuries that would stop any other species. They stayed alert despite going days with almost no sleep. During one exercise, Lieutenant Doyen Kang was cut badly on his arm. Blood soaked through his uniform, but he continued the training mission. How are you still standing? A coalition officer asked him. You need medical attention. Doyen looked down at his bleeding arm and shrugged. It's just a scratch. The alien's translator device blinked repeatedly, struggling to make sense of this response. General Sunwoo organized mixed teams, humans working alongside coalition soldiers. At first, the alien troops were nervous around their human teammates. That changed 3 weeks later. A joint patrol exploring a border moon was suddenly attacked by Vex Star scouts. The coalition soldiers immediately followed their standard procedure. They formed a defensive circle, called for help, and prepared to hold position until rescue arrived. The humans did something completely different. They're targeting us from those high rocks, Sergeant Jin said calmly. blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. And their command unit is behind that ridge. How can you possibly know that? Asked the coalition patrol leader. Jin pointed to subtle differences in the enemy weapon fire. Different sound signatures. The orders are coming from there. Without waiting for permission, the human soldiers split into 3 groups. They didn't just hide and defend. They moved quickly through the rocky terrain, flanking the enemy position. They identified the Vextar leaders and focused their attack precisely where it would do the most damage. The coalition soldiers watched in amazement as the humans overcame a superior enemy force, not through better weapons or technology, but through perfect coordination and an uncanny ability to predict the enemy's actions. When it was over, the Vextar forces were completely defeated. Not just pushed back, systematically taken apart. The humans had targeted communication links, leadership positions, and supply lines with surgical precision. How did you know where to strike? The coalition commander asked General Sunwoo afterward. We watched them, Sunwoo said simply. All predators have patterns. That night, Admiral Ta reviewed the battle footage with his senior staff. Look at their eyes, he said, freezing the image on a human soldier's face during combat. Most species show fear or rage in battle. Humans show focus, complete concentration. They enjoyed it, said one of his officers quietly. No, Ta corrected. They're good at it. There's a difference. Later that week, the coalition leadership called an emergency meeting. The Vextar had destroyed another border outpost. Thousands had died. We need to change our approach, Admiral Ta said. Our defensive strategies aren't working. What do you suggest? Asked Counselor Meru. Let the humans lead our next response, Tay replied. The room erupted in protest. They're too aggressive, too unpredictable. We barely understand them. Admiral Ta waited for the noise to settle. Yes, they are all those things, but they are also the only species who has successfully defeated Vextar forces. In the back of the room, General Sunwoo watched quietly. He had already developed a battle plan. The coalition forces would learn how humans fought, not just with weapons and ships, but with a mindset that had been forged on a dangerous planet where humans had clawed their way to the top of the food chain. The meeting ended with a reluctant agreement. For the first time in coalition history, alien forces would follow human leadership into battle. As the council members filed out, one stopped beside General Sunwoo. Your sister told me humans evolved as persistence hunters. The alien said, What does that mean? Sunwoo smiled slightly. It means we don't give up. Ever. Jun-Li hurried through the coalition space station with his datapad clutched tightly. He found Commander Hannah in the strategy room, reviewing star maps with alien officers. You need to see this, Commander, Jun said, showing Hannah his datapad. Hannah looked at the screen. Jun had accessed the Coalition's hidden biological archives. The data showed detailed studies of human physiology compared to other species. They've been studying us for months, Jun explained quietly. Look at their conclusions. The Coalition scientists had determined something unique about humans. Unlike other predator species that relied on ambush or raw strength, humans had evolved as persistence hunters. They tracked prey across long distances until the target collapsed from exhaustion. This combination of intelligence, teamwork, and relentless pursuit existed nowhere else in known space. No wonder they seem afraid of us, Hannah said. Before they could discuss it further, emergency alarms blared throughout the station. The main screen lit up with battle reports. The Vextar had launched a massive attack, hitting coalition defenses across 3 sectors simultaneously. Admiral Ta entered the command center, his scales a pale gray color that Jun had learned indicated extreme stress. We're activating emergency protocols, the Admiral announced. All forces will fall back to defensive positions around core worlds. General Sunwoo, who had been silently observing from the corner, stepped forward. No. The room went quiet. Excuse me, Admiral Tai asked. We don't retreat, Sunwoo told the gathered war council. We disperse, observe, and exploit weaknesses. You're proposing guerrilla tactics against a numerically superior force. Admiral Tai asked, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. I'm proposing we act like humans, Sun Wu replied simply. The plan was implemented despite strong opposition from several coalition commanders. Human ships began operating in small groups, striking Vextar supply lines, and disappearing before enemy reinforcements could arrive. They attacked fuel depots, communication relays, and repair stations, all the support systems the Vextar needed for their main fleet. It's working, Jun told Hannah 2 weeks later, showing her the latest battle data. The Vextar advance has slowed by 30%. Hannah nodded, but her expression remained troubled. I found something strange in their secure communications. Help me decode this. Together, they worked through the encrypted coalition transmissions. What they discovered was shocking. The Vextar threat was far worse than reported to Earth. The aliens hadn't just taken territory. They had completely destroyed 17 civilizations, leaving dead worlds behind them. Why hide this from us? Jun wondered. Hannah immediately took this information to Admiral Ta. When confronted, the alien leader didn't deny it. We feared human reaction, he admitted. Your species responds to threats with disproportionate force. You mean we fight back effectively, Hannah said coldly. Your kind doesn't just fight, you escalate, Tay replied. Throughout your history, when threatened, humans don't just defeat enemies, they obliterate them. Hannah shared this conversation with her brother later that day. General Sun Wu listened quietly, then said, he's not wrong, but he hasn't seen disproportionate yet. The next morning, Sun Wu presented a new battle plan to the Coalition War Council. It was so unexpected that the alien commanders initially thought the translation was wrong. This can't be right, one commander said, looking at the tactical display. You're suggesting we sacrifice the 4th Fleet as bait. Not sacrifice, Sun Wu corrected. We're offering the Vextar exactly what they expect to see. Conventional coalition tactics. While they're focused on that, we'll show them something they've never encountered. The plan called for coalition ships to engage in a traditional formation battle near Nexus Prime, a critical junction point in space. This would appear to be a last-stand defense using tactics the Vextar had easily defeated before. But hidden throughout the nearby asteroid field would be human ships, waiting. This is madness, one coalition commander objected. You're giving them our location and inviting attack. Yes, Sun Wu agreed calmly. That's exactly what I'm doing. Jun watched the alien commanders argue among themselves. Their species had evolved as cautious planners, risk-averse, and methodical. Humans were something else entirely, creatures willing to place themselves in danger to gain advantage. Consider how humans hunt, Jun explained to the coalition scientists. We don't hope prey wanders into our traps. We actively pursue. We study. We learn patterns and exploit them. Admiral Ta finally raised his hand for silence. I'd studied Earth's military history. Your kind developed something called blitzkrieg, lightning war, and another concept, shock and awe. Yes, Sun Wu confirmed. This plan contains elements of both. After hours of debate, the coalition leadership reluctantly agreed to the plan, though Jun doubted they fully understood what they had authorized. That night, as human and coalition forces prepared for battle, Jun found Hannah staring out at the stars. Are we doing the right thing? He asked quietly. The Vextar destroy entire worlds, Hannah replied. They don't negotiate. They don't show mercy. Neither do apex predators, Jun said. Hannah turned to look at him. In Earth's history, every ecosystem had one top predator that kept balance. Perhaps the galaxy needs one too. As coalition ships moved into position at Nexus Prime, human vessels slipped silently into hiding places throughout the battlefield. The trap was set. Now they would see if the most dangerous hunters from Earth could become the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy. Nexus Prime floated in space like a giant metal star. 7 major space routes met at this point, making it the most important station in this part of the galaxy. Today, it would become a battlefield. The Coalition's Fourth Fleet formed a defensive line in front of the station, their ships arranged in the same patterns they had used for hundreds of years. This was exactly what General Sun Mu wanted, to look predictable. Admiral Ta stood in the Coalition Command Center, watching as the enemy approached. The Vextar ships came in a massive wave, their black hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. "They've taken the bait," Ta said. "Now we wait for the humans." At first, nothing happened. The Vextar moved closer, their weapons charging. They had faced this exact formation before and defeated it easily. Then, without warning, human ships burst from hiding places within asteroid fields and gas clouds. They moved in ways that made the alien officers gasp. The ship spun and turned at speeds that would crush most species with the G-forces. "They're all going to die," a Coalition officer whispered, watching the tactical display. Human vessels shot straight through debris fields that Coalition navigation computers classified as impassable. Some deliberately vented air into space to change direction faster. Their maneuvers seemed random, even suicidal. "What are they doing?" Admiral Tai asked, unable to see any pattern. Jun Li studied the tactical screen carefully. "They're hurting the Vextar." Slowly, the method behind the apparent madness became clear. The human ships weren't just attacking randomly. They were forcing the Vextar vessels into specific positions, like hunters driving animals into a trap. A human cruiser took heavy damage, its side ripped open by enemy fire. Coalition commanders expected it to retreat for repairs. Instead, the damaged ship accelerated directly toward the largest Vextar vessel. "They're going to crash into the command ship," someone shouted. But the human ship didn't crash. It flew close enough to seem like a collision course, then fired precisely at junction points on the Vextar ship, weak spots that no one had identified before. "How did they know to target those specific points?" Admiral Ta demanded. Jun looked up from his datapad. "They've been analyzing Vextar ship designs since our first encounter. Humans are constantly processing information, even during battle." The human cruiser's attack created a gap in the Vextar defenses. General Sun Mu immediately took advantage. He sent a message that made Admiral Tai's scales change color with shock. "They're going to board the Vextar flagship. That's impossible." Captain Jihan Ryu led the boarding team. His small, fast ship docked with the Vextar vessel before the enemy could react. 20 human soldiers in battle armor cut through the hull and entered the enemy ship. Coalition forces watched through video feeds as the humans moved through the Vextar ship. They didn't hesitate or take cover like other species would. They advanced constantly, working together without speaking, seeming to read each other's intentions. "Look at their movement pattern," Jun said. "It's like watching wolves hunt." One human soldier took a hit from a Vextar weapon. Blood soaked through his armor, but he kept moving forward, firing his weapon with steady hands. "They're bleeding," a Coalition officer noted with horror, "but they keep fighting." Lieutenant Doyen, monitoring communications nearby, shrugged. "That's what we do." The humans targeted the ship's control centers with perfect precision. They didn't waste time or ammunition on random Vextar crew members. They moved directly toward command positions and key systems. Captain Jidun's voice came through the communication system. "We've reached the main bridge, encountering heavy resistance." The video feed showed the human team facing a group of Vextar warriors. The aliens were larger and physically stronger, with natural armor plating. In direct combat, they should have had the advantage. But the humans moved differently. They didn't try to match strength with strength. They used the environment, teamwork, and quick thinking. 3 humans would attack one Vextar from different angles, coordinating without words. "How are they communicating?" Admiral Tai asked. "They're reading micro-expressions and body language," Jun explained. "Humans evolved hunting in groups. They can anticipate what their teammates will do." Captain Jihan took a serious wound to his shoulder. The Vextar commander had struck him with a bladed weapon. But instead of retreating, Jihan pressed forward, ignoring the injury completely. "Their pain tolerance is extraordinary," Jun said. "Human bodies produce chemicals during combat that block pain signals." The battle for the bridge lasted 9 minutes. When it ended, Captain Jihan stood over the Vextar commander, weapon pointed at the alien's head. "Surrender your fleet," Jihan said, blood dripping down his arm, "or we'll take each ship the same way we took this one." Throughout the battle, General Sunmu had been carefully orchestrating the movements of both human and coalition ships. What had seemed like random attacks was actually a complex trap. The Vextar fleet was now split into isolated groups, unable to support each other. "Your brother fights like no commander I've ever seen," Admiral Ta told Hana. "He turned our weakest position into our strongest advantage." Hana watched as the Vextar ships began powering down their weapons. He gave them exactly what they expected to see, then showed them something they'd never encountered before. "What's that?" Tai asked. "Humans at war," Hana replied simply. As the Vextar fleet surrendered, coalition officers stared at their human allies with new understanding. These weren't just clever allies or skilled fighters. They were watching the galaxy's new apex predators at work. The news of victory spread quickly across coalition space. The Vextar fleet was defeated. Their ships were scattered, their leaders captured. For the first time in decades, the coalition had won a major battle. But the celebration felt strange. There was joy, yes, but also fear. Everyone had seen how the humans fought. The coalition members now understood they stood beside the most dangerous hunters the galaxy had ever known. On the main coalition station, scientists gathered to study recordings of the battle. They watched human ships move with impossible precision. They saw human soldiers continue fighting despite terrible injuries. Most disturbing was how humans analyzed their enemies, even while killing them. "Look here," said a coalition researcher, pointing to footage of Captain Jihan during the boarding action. "He's wounded, bleeding heavily, yet he's still identifying weak points in Vextar armor." "They don't fight with anger," another scientist noted. "They fight with cold purpose." "That's much more frightening." Admiral Tai called an emergency meeting of the Coalition Council. His scales had returned to their normal blue color, but his 4 eyes showed worry. "We need to renegotiate our treaty with Earth," he told the gathered leaders. "The humans must be acknowledged as special allies." Some council members objected. "They're too dangerous. We can't trust them. What if they turn on us next?" Admiral Tai raised his hand for silence. The Vextar threatened their worlds. They responded with overwhelming force. But notice what they didn't do. They didn't conquer. They didn't demand surrender of our worlds. They protected us. Commander Hannah Park led the Earth delegation in crafting a new agreement. The language was careful and precise. Earth promised protection to coalition worlds. In return, the coalition recognized humans as full partners in galactic affairs. Behind the words lay an unspoken truth. Humans could dominate the coalition if they chose. In a secure room deep within Nexus Prime Station, Hana interviewed the captured Vextar commander. The alien was massive, with natural armor plates and eyes adapted for hunting. It should have been the perfect predator. "Why did you attack Earth first?" Hana asked. "We were new to space travel. We weren't a threat to you." The Vextar's translator converted its rumbling voice. "You were the only true threat. Our scientists studied thousands of species. Only humans showed the predator pattern we recognized as dangerous." "What pattern?" Hana asked. "Your species is unique," the Vextar commander replied. "Other predators stop when they are full. You continue. Other species run from stronger enemies. You study them and return more powerful. Other hunters kill because they must. You transform killing into art." Hana considered this. "Yet we build. We create music, literature, medicine. We're not just killers." "That is the true danger," the Vextar said. "You channel the predator instinct into creation. It makes you unpredictable. unstoppable. 3 months after the battle, Nexus Prime was rebuilt. The space station once again served as the crossroads of galactic trade. Ships from dozens of worlds passed through its docking bays daily. Hana stood on the observation deck, watching the traffic. Admiral Todd joined her, his movement careful and formal as always. "My people feel safer with human ships patrolling our borders," he said. "Strange how quickly things change." They stood in silence for a moment, watching a massive Earth cargo ship dock below them. "Our scholars have a new theory about humans," Ta said carefully. "They believe your planet created the perfect conditions for your evolution. Earth was dangerous enough to require intelligence and cooperation, but not so dangerous that you couldn't develop technology." "And what do you believe?" Hana asked. Tay's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Hana had learned meant deep thought. "I believe the galaxy should be grateful that humans developed compassion alongside their predatory nature," he said finally. "The alternative would be too terrible to contemplate." As Admiral Tai left, Hana's communication device made a soft sound. It was a message from her brother. General Sunmu wanted her opinion on new defense systems for coalition planets. Hana smiled slightly. The galaxy's most dangerous predators had become its most determined protectors. The Vextar had been right about one thing: humans didn't stop. They would keep improving, adapting, and preparing. Not just for themselves now, but for all the species under their protection. 2 years later, a monument was built in the center of Nexus Prime Station. It showed human and coalition hands joined together. The inscription, written in 27 languages, said simply, "Let those who seek conquest beware. The hunters of Earth now guard these stars." Visitors to the station often noticed something interesting. Coalition children played freely around the monument, running and laughing without fear. But adult coalition members always moved past it quickly, their eyes never quite meeting the stone gaze of the human figure. They understood what the children didn't. The galaxy had found its apex predator at last, and all their futures depended on humanity's better nature remaining stronger than its hunting instincts. The end.